All right. Hello, everybody. We are live here with Becky Harris from Catoctin Creek Distillers, and she's also the president of the American Craft Spirits Association. We're going to get officially started in just a few minutes. It's 8:52 right now, and we're just going to let everybody hop on and just enjoy the music, sit back, relax. I'm going to share the stream on a few other places. But if you are joining us, please chime in and tell us where you're from. And if you do miss if you can't stay for the whole show, then this will also be recorded. So welcome everybody, and tell us where you're from, and sit back, relax. We're going to get started in just a few moments. Alrighty. Becky, are you drinking anything tonight, or you hanging out?
Actually, I just have seltzer here right now.
Okay, that's good. Drink responsibly.
That's right. Tomorrow I'm back on the job, so
Oh yeah, that's right.
Tastings right away in the morning.
Yep. Thanks for joining us again. We're going to get officially started in just a few moments. We're just starting here, and everybody can get situated. And tell us where you're from. If you're joining us, tell us where you're from, and sit back, relax. This up here. I see a few people joined us. Chime in if you can, and tell us where you're from or tuning in from. Oh yeah, that's right.
Tastings right away.
Mm. Thanks for joining us. We're going to get started in just a few moments. Thanks for joining us again. We're going to get started in just a few moments. Sit back, relax, enjoy the music. And if you want to tell us where you're chiming in from, please leave a message. If you have any questions, this stream is live, and feel free to join and ask questions and participate. All right, we have Steve from Cherry Hill, New Jersey here. We have Mark Mason from NYC. Thanks for joining us. You guys drinking anything out there, or are you just relaxing? Some cup of tea or water? We're gonna start in probably just about 5 more minutes. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the music. Hi, Mike. Mike from Philly. Thanks for joining us. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them on the side here, and then we'll make sure to address them with Becky. Oh, look at Mark's drinking craft whiskey, Dad's Hat Rye from PA. Right in Pennsylvania here.
Good guys.
Yeah, good guys. Becky, is your whiskey in New York as well?
It is.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Great.
Jersey, New York, and we've been in Pennsylvania as well. Some special order.
Yeah, special orders. Yep.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah, blackened. All right, we have. If you can chime in, tell us where you're from, what you're drinking tonight. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them on the side. Leave a message, and we'll get to it. Everybody can see that I'm. My background is actually Becky's distillery.
It's daytime there.
Yeah, I snuck in here last night.
Hey there, Dallas.
All right. Sarah Beth from Dallas. Thanks for joining. Steve's got a Four Roses limited edition. Okay. And Marcy, our friend Steve's spouse, has a E.H. Taylor rye. Sarah Beth is sipping on a scotch today. The Downmore 15, and Tom Schultz is from Virginia. Okay, there you go. Charlottesville, Virginia. Tom, you should go visit Becky at her distillery there in Virginia.
Not too far away.
Yeah. So, Becky, I also did share this in the Nova Whiskey Info, which is the, Nova, DC, Maryland, area. So hopefully we have some, VA folks join us.
Yeah, we could.
Mark asks, Becky, do you know where in NYC I can purchase your products?
I might have to follow up, but I do know Astor Wine and Spirits has them.
I was about to say. I was going to say Astor. Astor has
Yeah,
everything.
they've
Yeah.
carried us for a long time now, so they generally get most of our stuff and the special editions as well.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna start in just in 1 minute. Mike Kelly asks, any good whiskey in Philadelphia? There's a lot of good whiskey in Philadelphia. Yeah, if you're talking about craft distillers, there's several craft distillers in Philadelphia. Dad's Hat's outside of Philadelphia. Somebody just mentioned Dad's Hat. We have Red Brick. We have Philadelphia Distilling. We have Boardroom Spirits outside of Philadelphia. Several other craft distillers. So craft distillers are really thriving in the Pennsylvania area and Philadelphia region for sure. All right, well, let's get started here. It's 9:05 here, and again, thanks everybody for joining us. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section. We'll see them, and then hopefully get to address them. But we are very honored to have Becky with us here today. I'm actually going to switch up this banner here, and there you go. So. Becky Harris, she is the founder of Catoctin Creek Distillers in Virginia, and she is the current president of the American Craft Spirits Association. One of the reasons why I wanted to connect with Becky, just because the craft spirits world in the United States is, has been exploding and is exploding. And, I just thought this would be an incredibly insightful interview to speak with somebody in the craft spirits world, which I've had already. I've spoken with a few distilleries in Chicago, Dad's Hat here in Pennsylvania. And it's just been incredible to see these brands grow. And even Catoctin Creek's been around for, several years now, and amidst this boom, but also, right now with the whole COVID situation, how are these craft distilleries dealing with all this craziness right now, right? And because we're all drinking a lot of craft whiskey and spirits nowadays, and I just felt it was a great opportunity to let people get more insight on this world right here. But Becky, let me pass it over to you, and why don't you just share a little bit about yourself and where you're from, where your distillery is, how you became the president of the American Craft Spirit Association, and kind of tell us your journey.
Yeah. Thanks. It's great to be here tonight. So my husband and I founded Catoctin Creek Distillery 10 years. Well, it's actually 11 years ago now. It was 2009. Yeah. So we've been in this for a while now. We pair of engineers. We thought he likes to say that government contracting taught him a great love of drinking.
Okay.
He was in the spaces. Surveillance systems for the Navy. So he was doing contracts on of passive listening systems and doing 26-page PowerPoints for various contracts. He knew they weren't going to get 10, 15 revisions later. He's dreaming of doing something else, right?
Yeah.
And so he kind of came up with this idea, and my response was, well, I know that I'm a chemical engineer. I've worked in, making polystyrene foam trays. I've done contact lenses. I've done copper and nickel plating on plastics. I can learn to make whiskey. Can we make any money?
Yeah, that's the most important thing, you know.
And it's still the toughest part of this particular business. Making good whiskey is not something that is rocket science, but keeping a small business open is
Yeah,
absolutely the toughest part. So, you know,
absolutely.
yeah, we've been in it and growing steadily. We're in about 26 states right now. Um, you know, pretty much they did Maryland, DC, Virginia. We were in Pennsylvania. I think there were special order. We're in New Jersey,
Yeah,
Delaware, New York, Texas, California, Washington. So, we've got a small footprint in a lot of
yeah,
states. This year, we were supposed to be doing a lot more as far as growing the brand and travel to support it. Of course, all those plans changed.
yeah,
Um, and I was also currently, when I was doing this, it was kind of involved over the past year to 2 years with the American Craft Spirits Association on the board.
yeah.
And right before the new year, I put my
Happy
name
New
out
Year.
to be president, right?
Yeah,
And thought, oh, this will be, an interesting year. I'll learn a lot, get to work with some great people. And then, of course, COVID hit,
yeah,
and it's definitely been a real change. So it's kind of like jumping right in the deep end.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been crazy. It's kind of like it makes me think of World War Z or like zombie apocalypse stuff, you know. So who would have
Yeah,
thought? Who would have thought, huh? And I think
nobody.
and we had this actually conversation last week for my Taiwanese audience or international audience as well. So we touched on a couple of things, and who and in the craft whiskey world, because I think a lot of I think it's almost kind of like we're also doing our part to kind of demystify the craft whiskey world, because as you mentioned, it's a small business, so it's not this, I'm just all I have to worry about is make good whiskey, and people are just kind of like bang that, people, my neighbors are just kind of drinking, we're just partying all the time, or
Yes.
we're just
Yeah.
having a good time every day.
Yes.
But there's a lot of real issues that craft distillers face like any other small business owners, right?
Exactly. Very much
And
so.
because I think what the public sees in the whiskey world in terms of marketing and branding is a good time and cocktails, and I'm drinking whiskey off the still, and it's just fun.
Wandering through the barley, you know?
Yeah, wandering through the barley with
Yeah,
my
tasting from barrels, all that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
They don't think about payroll and, paying your excise taxes and, what happens when everything shuts down,
Right, yeah,
dealing with
yeah,
distribution, all
yeah,
those
yeah,
are
exactly.
not interesting at all.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like demystifying this craft whiskey world. And I think it adds a real perspective when we talk about this, and also help people realize that craft distillers amidst COVID and whatnot are going through some of the same challenges as any other food and beverage hospitality industry business, right?
Very much so. Yeah,
Yeah,
very much so. Our most of 90 some percent of the 2000 plus craft distillers in this country um, send over 80% of their products in their home state, and half of that comes out of their tasting room doors.
yeah, yeah,
So when you think about that, you're basically, you are basically a tasting room that does some distribution.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
so that's really as close to the bone as it gets. And when you are shut down because of COVID, then, that's 40% of your sales
Yeah,
gone.
absolutely. Yeah,
That's not what's happening to the big guys. That's not what's happening to, Bullet and all the big guys.
yeah,
They
yeah, yeah.
still are
The
going to
big
be
brand.
just
Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
It's the
yeah.
little guys who are really hurting right now.
And I showed this this little statistic because everybody can also go to the American Craft Spirits Association website, which I think is a great place for resources on the industry. But they also have this great project that they actually did here, and I'm going to share this with you, and I'm going to share a part of my screen here. Because you did mention the 2,000 plus distillers, and so I just want to let people see that here it might be a little small, but in 2010 we had 204 active craft distillers, and in 2015 we have 1,163. So it's grown by almost over 1,000. In 5 years from 2010 to 2015. And then we have here, if I can scroll down here, this is the most current report for 2019, where we see from 2014 to, let me see, let me just make this a little bit larger. From 2014 to 2018, we went from the 900 to 2001, just over, right? So literally, it really has grown, and now I think it's over 2,000. I think it's like 2,200 something almost, right?
Yeah, it just keeps growing. There's not really any end in sight. Even in Virginia, we still have new places opening up.
Yeah, so so we've seen 2,000 distilleries, craft distilleries open in the United States over the last decade or so.
Mm-hmm.
And those are just some incredible numbers. And, the effect of that on, the economy and, employment and whatnot also is making a, big impact as well as, even just some of the whiskey that's going abroad on imports and exports and whatnot. Incredible figures right now. But let's go back, so we were, I wanted to touch on that, but then let's go back to some of these struggles that we're seeing, right? So, so I'm a big supporter of local, and I tell people to support local. And when we did, shows with Dad's Hat, I'm going to share your website with everybody later on, so people can go to your website and they can order online as well. They can order directly online if they're in Virginia, I think, right? You said
we can ship direct in Virginia. There are some other ways to get the products. So if you go to the website, we have a where to buy. It really talks pretty thoroughly about where you can find it in any given state.
Yeah, and or if anybody wants to hop onto the Catoctin Creek website, feel free to hop on there, and I'm going to show that a little bit later. But yeah, so craft distillers are affected just like any other business, and one of the things that I learned from having this conversation with you last week is that a majority of craft distillers, and I believe you said up to 90%, are operating as almost like a hospitality, food and beverage business. First, almost, no, I don't say first and foremost, but a big, maybe more than 1/3 up to half of profits and revenue is coming from tasting rooms, from venue spaces you had mentioned I didn't really know of. Some distilleries rent their space and distillery as venues,
weddings,
birthday parties, and of course cocktail programs are a big thing.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I guess some places might have serve food and things like that as well. But that's something that I didn't really think of, and that I knew, but I wasn't quite. It didn't really dawn on me as to how much of the industry kind of relied on that part of the business. Because sometimes people think of craft distillers, they think like, okay, you make 90% of your money from making whiskey or making craft spirits. but this huge part is, entertaining and almost operating as like a bar for many, and as a venue and hospitality.
Yes.
Tell us, tell us more about that, and share some insights on that.
Right. We started 10 years ago, and at the time when we started, we weren't allowed to do tastings in
Okay.
our place. And 10 years ago, even though there wasn't much of a presence of craft spirits on the whole market, if you will, we were able to get distribution, and we were able to start. So we really started to think about everything in terms of shipping it out, right? But as the year started with 200 10 years ago, and now there are 2,000 now.
Over
So you
2,000,
think about that proliferation of brands in distribution spaces, and you can see that channels are getting really full. And that makes it really hard for new small producers to even get a chance to put their stuff into the distribution channels.
Right.
So when you're doing this and you're a small brand, then what do? You've got to basically figure out, okay, how do I keep my people employed? How do I make money and grow my business? And hopefully, if I can do enough business out of my tasting room, get a reputation, grow, then maybe I can get a slot in somebody's distribution, and they will move my product for me. And that's, as a small business person, that's what you look at. So, right now, when people aren't able to do that, what are their options? Well, they can do, a lot of them can do carry out, or curbside, or, some states are starting to give bars and restaurants cocktails to go. And a lot of times they'll let distillery stores do cocktails to go as well.
Yeah.
And one of the other things is direct to consumer shipping. Virginia allowed us to do that. That made a big difference for our tasting room staff. It gave people a job. When tasting rooms are shut down, you've got to do this stuff, so it's all these small independent businesses right now are really struggling. And as we're starting to open up in some places, and I know in Texas, for instance, they're starting to close down maybe again. My son lives in Houston, and he was telling me that they're starting to talk about what's going to happen in the next few weeks. For the next year or so, we could be going through these cycles, and
opening, closing kind of thing.
Exactly. So all of you guys out there, it's one of those things. It's like, if I read a really cool thing, they were talking about, you should make a list of the things you want to be there next year.
Yeah.
And then get your carry out, get your, buy those things, because unless you buy those things, they're not going to be there.
Yeah, and it's such a tough situation, because even in Philadelphia, we were shut down for several months, a couple 2-3 months, and with the situation as it's moving forward, a lot of these old 20-year-old staples in Philadelphia, and I'm sure everywhere else we're seeing the same thing, like old restaurants, old bars. They just decide not to renew their lease, and they're just kind of closing down, right?
Yeah.
And it's tough, but so you had mentioned it's things like allowing takeout and things, some of these bars allowing for to-go cocktails, distilleries allowing curbside service, or states allowing distilleries to have curbside service and selling. And as well as, last time we had talked, and you had mentioned that what had really helped out a lot, or as much as it can help, is shipping, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I feel really it's in the United States, I think it's quite antiquated that we don't allow for just shipping across the United States for somebody that has a license, right?
Right. Wineries do it.
Yeah. What do you say?
Wineries do it.
Yeah, and yeah, yep, and this is what you talked about, and this is kind of we can touch on some of the advocacy work that the American Craft Spirits Association does in regards to what are some of the things that's on your agenda in terms of advocating for craft distillers now. You had mentioned things like wineries and beer. I think some beer you said, but then definitely wineries can. But they can ship all over the United States. They can sell anywhere and whatnot. But for some reason, spirits isn't included in that. And tell us a little bit more about your thoughts on that. Tell us a little bit more about like I was mentioning, the advocacy work and some of the things that you're trying to fight for. You had mentioned trying to help people with just training and trying to stay afloat and maybe taking advantage of online orders and shipping and whatnot. But share with us some of the information you have on this
Happy to do so. One of our next big projects for the organization is starting to look at what we can do for direct shipping. It's when you can order the dog food, books, crayons, supplies for almost any project you want to do, you can get delivered to your house. And, you can get every ingredient you need for New York sour, including the wine, except for the whiskey. So, why shouldn't we be able to get whiskey? And so we look at it as basically an equity issue. These laws came out of after Prohibition. One of the problems was tied houses and how, people would just, you could only get one kind of product in a certain bar. And that they were trying to break up all that, which was, leading to corruption and all this, plus safety, right? You want to know where your products are coming from. Well, distilleries and wineries, we are licensees. The federal government can inspect us at any time. We're registered with the FDA and with the TTB, which is the Tax and Trade Bureau. So, we're fully aware of the laws, we're fully compliant, and we are even more concerned with our quality and safety than even other tiers of distribution are. It's our livelihoods that are out there. So we feel like there isn't really an argument against it, especially when you look at the problems with small brands and getting distribution. Most of your middle tier is They can't deal with brands that maybe move 5 cases a month, right? It doesn't make any sense. Why they're like, this is more trouble than it's worth. So when you look at that, it's these brands need time to build a market so that then when they get to a certain volume level, yes, it totally makes sense for them to have a distributor who does all their deliveries and everything like that. Great. But what do you do when you're not big enough for that? How do you where's your on-ramp? And we feel like that the direct-to-consumer gives these brands the opportunity to create relationships with customers in the entire United States and to grow those relationships and create passionate consumers who are going to go out and request these brands. And eventually your numbers will get to the point where, yes, you can be considered a good business risk for a middle tier distribution. We think it's a no-brainer. So far, we also feel like it's uniquely the time to do this because of the emergency situation that so many of these small brands are in. They desperately need outlets, and most consumers are not looking to go and spend a lot of time in tasting rooms. Tasting rooms usually can't have as many people as they can usually have. And so for us, it's just like, this is the perfect response to the pandemic, is allow these perfectly licensed, safe places to ship to their customers so that nobody has to go anywhere they don't want to. Yet we can keep jobs, keep people working, and keep our doors open, lights on, rent paid, all that good stuff.
And I want to also stress again a figure that you have mentioned, some places, 40, 50, even maybe up to 60% of a distillery's revenue is coming from their tasting room.
Yes,
Right?
that's true. The
And
smallest places, the ones that need
yeah,
it the most, the
yeah,
biggest ones, they have distribution and
right.
most of them can manage. But the littlest ones, the ones that are, the newest and the
Yeah,
littlest are the ones that really have the most problems with it.
yeah,
And, when Virginia allowed direct consumer shipping, it
yeah.
was the littlest brands that got the biggest boost because
Right, exactly.
they recognized it. They reached out to their core customers who already were big supporters and were able to immediately turn that into sales.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so obviously this is very important. And so and what are some things that so how did this I guess piece of legislation, or I guess has it become like a new law, or just kind of like it's kind of like a temporary thing in Virginia, or
It's currently temporary. We're trying to work to get it to be put at least extended through the pandemic, and until we can get legislation passed in the
yeah,
House of Delegates to get it permanent.
okay,
But yeah, it came with COVID. Maryland has done a similar emergency declaration. I think they've got one in like California. I think
okay,
Oregon can do it
yeah,
now.
okay.
There's a number of states, and so we kind of felt like, the fact that we were able to make this argument and get it some places, maybe we can kind of get the ball rolling.
Yeah, yeah. And well, Raymond just my friend Raymond just joined us, and he asked, why is it so important and
Raymond?
difficult to be picked up by a distribution company? And then we'll touch on this again. Is this, there's still a lot of red tape and a lot of
Yes,
bureaucracy. Also, dealing with distributors, and
absolutely.
the 3-tier system, and
Yep.
and all that whatnot. So again, another component, another challenge that a lot of craft distillers have to face, and it's not just this romantic notion of just making whiskey or spirits that you love all day, but being able to be recognized enough. It's almost kind of like getting drafted by like the NBA or like the NFL kind of thing.
Yes,
You have to
kind of.
show.
Yes,
Yeah, you have to show that you're marketable, right?
yes,
And there's a demand and whatnot, and then a distributor will pick up your brand, and then give you, and also volume. You also have to be able to
yes,
provide enough
yes.
bottles for a distributor to pick up, right? Because if you're
Right.
micro and you're just making little bits at a time, then distributors like, well, you can give me 2 cases,
Yeah, it's a lot of work. And
yeah,
especially if, you're doing special releases, a lot of us small guys, our special releases are, 600 bottles for the whole country.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Distributors are like, what am I supposed to do with that? They
yeah,
want more than that.
yeah,
Most of them are thinking in how many, if you can do 60 or 70 cases a month of something, that's interesting to them.
yeah,
It's not so interesting if you're at your beginning stages, when you're just like, I have a few people and I'm going to have to work really hard to get the name out there. But without a distributor, a lot of times you can't send stuff legally into another state. So
yeah,
that's really, Raymond, why it is important, because I might have maybe I have people from Virginia who've moved
yeah,
to Florida,
yeah,
and they love us and they want to buy us.
or even
And
just Maryland, or
yeah, I mean, Maryland or whatever, anywhere. But when you do that, you have to have a middle tier partner, a distributor who can take your wholesale product and then bring it and distribute it in that state according to whatever rules they have. Some states are control states and some states aren't. And so we have to be able to have a partner to get stuff into different states. And so that's really why it's important. And the difficulty is just because there are so many brands. And, when you look at like small distilleries as compared to, say, small breweries, the big distilleries saw what happened to a lot of the big breweries in the craft, when craft beer took over, right?
Yeah.
They are still innovating. They never were sucky. They always made good whiskey. So they're not going to sit back and let all these little brands come and nibble away, right? They're going to continue to innovate. They're going to continue to provide, good products, and they're going to fight hard on price. All of that is strong competition. So it just makes it that much harder to get your foot in the door. And once you've got your foot in the door, to keep prying that door open.
Yeah. And, and so it seems really like there's there's a lot of politics, a lot of bureaucracy, and really just because in the last 10 years you had this, 2,000 distilleries pop up.
Yeah.
I don't think the entire system isn't really prepared or set up.
Prepared at all for that. They had a couple hundred distilleries after Prohibition, right?
Yeah.
And you look at that, and then there were these distributors, and they have these couple hundred distilleries and all the brands that are associated with that. And then at the same time that we have all these new brands coming in, what's happening on the distribution side? They're consolidating. They're merging. So you even have some fewer distributors handling more brands, which just makes it more challenging. And like I said, there's nothing that we're not willing to meet the challenge, but we need an on-ramp. We need a way to grow our business to be ready for it. And I think there are lots of brands that have gotten there. There are brands that are doing great in the standard distribution system, and they're growing. But a lot of the littlest brands, they need something to keep kind of get them up.
Yeah. And that's what the ACSA is trying to do right now, is at least trying to get even footing, right? Because the system is really set up for larger brands and with larger distribution capabilities and whatnot, and kind of the small guys obviously not going to have the opportunities, right?
And when you look at wineries, this whole same thing happened back in the 70s, right?
In
the 1970s, all these wineries popped up, and people loved their wine and they wanted it when they went home. They'd go to visit California, they'd go to visit Oregon, and they wanted that wine when they got home, but it wasn't available because those wineries couldn't get the distribution because there were too many brands. And so, there was enough of an understanding that these wineries are providing jobs, they're providing economic activity, it's investment in the communities, it's supporting agriculture, all the same stuff that small distilleries do. And so they started to use the ability to ship to consumers as a way for these places to do well. And a lot of these small wineries in California or whatever, they don't need to seek even national distribution because they have an excellent business just through their ability to interface with consumers that are out there that found them.
And I think that's essentially is a big game changer, right? Because I don't, as a winery or distributor, I don't need to, have to rely on a distributor to carry my product, for me to get kind of mass distribution or larger distribution.
You'll get there. You'll finally get big enough. Then you'll have that opportunity to work with these distributors. It's only when you're tiny that you really need this extra help.
And actually, I don't think there's much of a conflict either, because the larger distributors, may not be even looking or even be interested.
That's the thing. They don't want 5 to 10 cases, right?
So it's not like
bottle or 12 bottles, whichever one size case it is. 5 cases. If you're doing 5 cases a month, that's not a really good business proposition because their people are going out and selling things, and it's a lot of work to teach people about these 5 cases, and they do all this work, and then I can see they're talking about 6 or 12 bottle cases. A lot of small distilleries ship in 6 bottle cases. Our distillery ships in 6 bottle cases. It just works better since you're not doing huge volumes.
Yeah. Exactly. There you go. There's another couple questions over here, and might be jumping the gun just a little bit, but our friend Frank says, "What size barrels do you use? What are the ages of your whiskey?"
Yes. Well, hey Frank. For most of my major brands that I distribute nationwide are Roundstone Rye. Let me find one to show up. Yeah. Here we go. There's my Roundstone Rye, the Catoctin Creek Roundstone Ryes. We have 3 different versions of those, and I use 30-gallon barrels, and that came out of when we started 10 years ago. I was the only person working on a day-to-day basis, and I can move a 30-gallon barrel. I can get it up on the pallet. I can move it on a rack. I can do whatever I need to do with the 30-gallon barrel, but I can't move a 53 in the same way. Yeah. And I didn't have I was storing my whiskey in a horse barn.
Okay.
And so I would put 4 barrels, not 3. 4 barrels in the back of my 93 Ford Ranger. Nice. And drive them to the horse barn and then roll them down the ramp and into the horse barn. So I developed a really good whiskey out of a 30-gallon barrel. And it's just under 2 years old in the 30 gallons. Now, currently I also do a bottled and bond at 4 years old. Those are also in 30-gallon barrels. Since we've gotten a warehouse with a cement floor, that particular product I've moved into 53-gallon barrels for now, so that it can, because you lose a lot of whiskey in a 30-gallon barrel in 4 years. It's like 30%. Yeah. It's pretty brutal. So I'm excited about. I'm trying to remember. I think it's like 2024 or 2025 that I first start releasing the bottled and bond out of the 53s.
And somebody commented it's not easy moving a 30-gallon barrel either.
There's a trick to it.
I don't think it's easy to move any large barrels full.
You have to be careful, but yes, I actually had one of my distillers, Addie, who was working for us for a while. She was like, girl was probably weighed 110 pounds soaking wet. And she finally got to where she could take a barrel that was laying on its side and flip it up on the end. And it took her like a year to figure out how to get the right momentum and timing to kind of flip it up. Now, I think you can do that with 53s. I have not done that with a 53.
Yeah.
No, I'm getting too old for that.
Yeah.
But
just things like just wrangling barrels and things like that, and so and you had mentioned you were using barn as your kind of rick house.
Yeah,
right?
It was.
These are some of the cool stories that just kind of like a lot of craft distillers, you're kind of bootstrapping it, kind of like
so much bootstrapping. Yes. It's like it's funny because especially early on, it was a lot of us were just coming out doing it. We're a couple of engineers. We didn't have we didn't sell our software company and decide to start a new life in a whiskey distillery. We decided we're just like, we think we could do this, can we get an SBA loan? And we did. And so we didn't have a lot of money for much of anything. And so you just kind of figure out a way to kind of make your business live and grow. And we're 10 years later, we're still here.
And so that also, I also want to point out that a lot of small craft distillers are kind of figuring things out just on the go and on the spot. They're not, not every craft distiller is, coming from a 10-year distilling background or something like that.
Not a lot of some are, some aren't.
Yeah, maybe now we're seeing more of that because you have the craft,
Right.
which
And there's more money coming into it. There's a lot more money coming into it. Some of the newer distilleries, Sagamore, they have a lot of money coming into this. So they're doing everything with the best technology and the best advice, consultants, whatever, to get everything going. They're building a multi-million dollar business from the get-go. Most of the smallest distilleries are not starting anywhere near that size.
Yeah, and so it seems like the questions are kind of going towards knowing more about your distillery because somebody else asked what type of still and how large is it. Have you released any cast strength whiskey? Of the whiskeys that you make, what is your favorite?
They're like my
but actually, before I get to that, I don't want to forget Sarah Beth here. She says, "Does the ACSA show data of how many distilleries opened in the last year, 5 years, etc.? Is there a lot of turnover?"
There's some, but I don't think it's huge. I personally am trying to think of the ones I know of.
Obviously, it's an upward trend, so I'm sure
they're still growing. I think
total numbers are growing.
Yeah, I think essentially there might be some turnover, but I think a lot of times those people are selling their businesses to someone else who's taking it and moving on. So I think we're going to see some shakeout pretty soon, unfortunately, especially if this goes on for too much longer. There's a lot of tough times coming for a lot of places, but I mean, that's restaurants, that's bars, that's
everyone. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we, and like you said, we have to start looking at craft distillers as also hospitality,
really,
spaces, mm-hmm. and almost kind of like a food and beverage hospitality places.
Right. Just like a lot of craft breweries, really.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Craft breweries and wineries. I guess you could say that.
Wineries too.
But to kind of go over, actually, let me just share this again because Sarah Beth had talked about it. Just kind of go over this again. So in 2014, there was 906. That jumped by about 200, and then 2015, 2016, about it's almost kind of like kind of steady 200 to 300 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And 2018 is 2001, and I think 2019 is 2000 some.
Yeah, it seems like really pretty 20% a year, kind of nice.
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah.
Just so hopefully that answers your questions, Sarah Beth. And I'm gonna go back to I'm actually gonna go back to this because Becky had shared a lot of these great pictures, and I'm gonna go ahead and just do this.
Yeah, so you can see some of the stills in there. You can see there's two of them. That one there's a good one.
Yeah.
So the one there by the window, his name is Ron. My stills are dudes. Some places all have stills that are women's names. My stills are dudes. So Ron is by the window, and Barney's in the middle. Barney was our original still. He's 100 gallons, and Ron is 300 gallons. Okay. So if we can ever get these tariffs done with, and I can afford to buy more equipment, I'm hoping to buy another still to replace Barney with one that's going to be like double Ron's size. So I want to get a 600 gallon that I can put in the middle right there, between the mash tank and Ron.
And when you talk about this, because Liberty Pole, this guy Liberty Pole in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I've met them. Nice people.
Yeah, and they just got upgraded in their still, and scalability is also obviously a big issue with craft distillers, right? So you have limited amount of income when you first buy your equipment to begin with, right? Yep. And then if you do well, then you need more product to sell. And then if your still is just that size and you spend already tons of cash on just getting your initial equipment set up, but then how do you increase your output? You can't with 100 still you can't make 200 in 100
Yep, it's definitely one of the issues,
right?
right? So you've only got, plus a lot of times in that some point you end up, depending on where you're located, people get pretty expensive. So you could say, oh, I can go 24/7, but trying to find people who can work those late
24/7.
shifts in some parts of the country, it's hard to find people.
Yeah.
So that's really, one of the things that you run into. But yeah, we're hoping to grow a little bit. Like we said, we're keeping ahead. The way we've always operated is that we try to grow our production by about the amount that we think we need to a couple years down the road. So you're always, you're not really taking a lot of profit home. What you're mostly doing is putting the profit you're making now is going into the warehouse in future whiskey.
Yeah.
And so you're basically just keep investing back in your business in the intention of growing your distribution, or a lot of times lately sales staff is growing, all those kind of things that you have to do to keep growing your business.
Yeah. And next year still, is that like a fermenter, or is that just a holding
mash tank right there to the right? Okay. Yep. Fermenters would be further to the right yet.
Gotcha. And so if you want to so you also you also have to worry about possibly upgrading and getting bigger
fermenters,
and holding tanks and all that.
And that's and that's we're hoping we do that. We're hoping that'll hold us for a few years, before we have to upgrade again. Kind of a holding pattern. I see Frank wants to know about cask strength whiskey.
Yeah. Frank,
I do make cask strength whiskey.
Oh, that's great.
People love my cask strength whiskey. Basically I go through, it's single barrel whiskey when I'm.
Here's a better shot too, yeah.
Yeah, when I'm tasting through it, what I'm looking for is a barrel where it's got just a great weight on the tongue, reads really, really drinkable. Sometimes even, not much heat at all. I want it to have a lot of that kind of oil on the palate to kind of make it feel really dense and smooth. So yes, I love my cask strength. As far as my whiskeys that are my favorite, they're all like my children. So it depends on the day.
Yeah, it depends on the day. Yeah,
depends on the day. Sometimes I love this one. Sometimes I love my brandies. We do brandies as well. We do pear, apple, and grape brandies. So I love brandies too. The cask strength is at 58%, Frank.
Okay. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yep.
Here's a tasting room here, right? This is actually
that's our tasting room. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of I'm getting that retro kind of Johnny Rocket kind of.
Well, it was what we did was this was actually a Buick dealership. The building that we have, it was a Buick dealership. So this was the sales floor. And those ceiling tiles you see up there, kind of little pieces of them were the original ceiling. And so we kind of kept kind of like a little industrial kind of vibe to the place. Yeah, now it's not quite as many tables in there, unfortunately, and no bar stools right now, and not until COVID gets under control.
Yeah. Well, Frank's also a friend of mine, so he likes his bourbons and whiskeys, and he likes the cask strength stuff. So
yeah, there's a lot of people out there who love the cask strength. It's funny when I taste people through it. I find that I have 3 whiskeys, like about 80 proof, 92 proof, and cask strength, and I find that people are in one of 2 camps. Usually, they like the 80 proof and the cask strength, or they like the 92 proof and the cask strength. Everybody likes the cask strength, but I think it's a question of which of the other 2 you like.
Yeah, I think Frank there described it. It's a mid-century modern. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. It's got kind of that zazziness. So yeah, that's the front of the distillery. So you can see we're kind of, I would say, an urban tasting room, but we're not urban. It's a small town, probably 10,000 people, and we're right on Main Street.
Yeah, and I can see this.
You can see those doors there on the left. That's where I deliver my forklift, my pallet out onto Main Street to put on the trucks.
such a this total Main Street kind of vibe here I'm getting, because just by looking at storefront next to you,
Yep.
it's just
That's
it's
the diner. They got breakfast there. Great
Okay.
breakfast. Great people. We've been with them. They've been there since gosh knows when. I mean, way long time ago. But yeah, they've had that diner there forever, and we see the same folks walking in front of it to go have breakfast every day. So it's very much a small town.
Very Americana. I like it.
Yes. Yes.
And I see you also have there. So since I'm from Pennsylvania, and a lot of the audience from Pennsylvania, I see you have almost also the Keystone.
Right. On the top. That tells 1921. It says. So that building was 1921. Was when it was built. Right after the Percival fire. The bank burned down, and then some years later, they used it to make the Buick dealership. So this was the Buick dealership.
Yeah, and they were selling Buicks right out there.
Right out of there. So the double doors were where they would work on the cars, and the right-hand side was the showroom.
Oh, that's kind of cool. You don't have any pictures of? Do you have any pictures like in your tasting room of the old Buicks there or anything like that?
A couple. The problem is that across the street from us is a much more distinctive building, so they always took pictures of the other side of the street. So we've only seen a couple.
Oh, so this is cool, in terms of sustainability and using the solar panels there.
Yep, we have solar panels. We have like one of the second biggest arrays in our county. We had the biggest for a while, but now some of the newer ones got loaded up. Yeah, this is before COVID.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny how maybe 6 months ago when you see this, this is like a happening spot.
Yeah, happening place. Now everybody's like, ooh, I don't know, is this okay?
yeah. And then now you see a picture like this, and you're like, makes you feel uncomfortable, kind of.
Yes. Oh, they're all so close to each other.
Like, why are they so close to each other? Yeah, exactly. Right. Such a crazy feeling. And more, some pictures of your still Ron.
Yep, there's Ron and Barney. Barney on the right, Ron on the left.
Barney and Ron. Yep. And kudos to you for keeping your still so clean.
That's a really good picture, isn't it? Yeah.
That takes a lot of work too. Just polishing the copper and all that, right?
Yeah. There's a bottling line there. You can see we've got the turntable full.
Okay, there you go.
Got bottles lined up.
And do you guys filter your whiskey, or how do you guys filter your whiskey?
Minimal. I try not to filter it a lot because to me, filtering takes out flavor, So I'm trying to get the char out. I try to get the big chunks out, but I'm not trying to put a lot in there. So I do tend to, sometimes you might see, some, especially in the 80 proof whiskey, like in the winter when it gets cold, you'll see some of the oils come out. And, every now and then I get a call from somebody who says, hey, there's some stuff in the bottom of my whiskey. And I'm like, shake it up. Go in. It's excellent. Funny, all flavor, man.
And that's one of the reasons, people chill filters, just because, your average consumer is going to be like, oh, it looks weird.
Yeah, it looks like there's stuff in there, and it's like, no, it's good. But 80 proof, it's because it's 80 proof. But there's a lot of reasons people love 80 proofs too. So that's one of our big sellers. So I just tell people, shake it up. It's cool.
So Ulrich is the maker of your stills. That's German, is that?
Yeah, Kota's the brand. They're they're from Bavaria. They're nice stills. They're good stills.
And it's interesting because I had this conversation with Paul Halecko,
right?
And he was talking about how and he started almost 10 years ago as well.
Paul and I met back when we were both dreamers. Yeah, so I've known Paul since he didn't have a still and I didn't have a still.
Right, yeah, and he had mentioned how some still makers domestically wouldn't give him the time of day.
Oh no, never return a phone call. Yeah.
And he had to go, abroad.
Yep.
And try to find a still maker that'll make him a still. And it was just such an interesting thing. It's like, He's like, what? You're going to start a distillery? It's like, I don't, but now you have now because of,
There is some more selection.
trailblazers like you and Paul. Now, people are obviously taking orders for stills domestically and everything.
Yeah, there's some more makers out there. There's still, some good options. So there's lots more selection nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's your beautiful.
Oh, look how young I was. That was back when we moved in. That was 2013 when we moved into that building. You can tell because everything is so clean.
Yeah, I want to say.
Look how shiny those stills are. Oh my goodness.
And that's your husband? Is their husband in the kilt?
Yes, my husband in the kilt.
Okay, nice kilt.
Yeah, and I know exactly what year it was because I had broken my hand. So I see the splint thing in my hand. So I knew that was 2013.
Yeah. Well, Frank asked kind of I guess a romantic question: does making whiskey bring you joy?
It does, Frank. I do enjoy it.
Like your children, right? Like
yeah, exactly. When things are going right, it's the best job ever. That's in the barn. So there you can see me rolling those barrels. That was Greg. He was my distiller for 8 years. He just left. Actually, I miss him. I think it was his birthday this weekend. I need to go and tag him up and say happy birthday. But yeah, he was one of my right-hand guys for 8 years. So there we are rolling
your 30 gallons. Moving your 30 gallons. Yeah.
Yep, moving those 30 gallons. You can see all the stalls. So we had to put them inside those stalls. So they weren't wide enough. You can't roll them through there. So you have to flip them end over end.
Oh yeah.
So you get pretty good at moving 30-gallon barrels.
Oh my gosh, that's a workout.
Yeah. Yep, getting them all on the pallets, getting them ready to go. That was where we had our barn. It was really beautiful. It was beautiful country. Out by us, there's some gorgeous country out there.
There you go. This is kind of the romantic stuff, This is
we definitely got the pictures. This was me looking really excited about bottling whiskey.
Yeah. The payroll and stuff, that's the all the
yes, or supply chain problems, oh, what, I don't have any bar tops, are you kidding me? That kind of thing.
Oh, nice, got a little rainbow here.
Look at that.
Oh, there you go. These are samples in mason jars.
Yep, doing some little samplings, some little experiments there.
Gotcha. Actually, that makes me wonder. Do you guys do much like private casts? We've
done quite a few, actually. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. I've been doing experiments for a while with some of the different finishing techniques. So we have quite a eclectic selection. A lot of it I get through relationships. So we just started, like, for instance, one that's really cool and I'm really proud of is a Zinfandel finished whiskey that we're doing for Wolfgang Puck. His restaurant, The Cut in DC, opened, and he asked us to come up with a bespoke whiskey. And so he tried our Zinfandel finished whiskey and loved it. And then when the restaurant opened, chef was there and a whole bunch of his chefs from all over the world, and they all wanted it too. So now Wolfgang is having us try to grow that brand. So,
that's great.
We got to ship some to Dubai. We had to ship it. It's in Nevada. It's really lovely. The Zin finished is really nice.
Is that would you make that like a staple bottling in your lineup, or?
Right now, well, of course, restaurants are slow. So, but I think once things pick up again, we have a few more barrels for him, and we're gonna kind of keep getting, that to where it needs to be. It's gonna take us a little time. We don't source. We've never sourced, so that makes it hard to blow up specific things for us.
Yeah, and you're touching on something that I think is very important for the craft distilling industry, is that immediate innovation or the mobility to innovate, right? So for a small distillery to put some whiskey in a Zin cask or a sherry cask or some other kind of cask, or or a red wine cask or a port cask, something like that, it's a matter of, are we going to do it? Let's just do it.
Yeah.
Right. But for like a big brand, it has to kind of go up the ladder. It's like, are we going to do this? Because if we're going to do this, we have to do X amount and invest this amount. Right. So there's obviously a lot of red tape that has to go through.
Right.
So
we don't have red tape for us. I mean, we decide we want to do it, and then we try it, and usually we can find somebody who likes it and wants it as a bespoke barrel. If maybe someday some of those will become part of our regular roundup, but for right now, we don't have any of those in.
And here are some of your barrels. And I want to mention that, you also make a gin.
Yes.
Here, this is gin.
Yeah, rye is kind of our thing, right? So we did a gin with some rye, so the rye to it as well. So we wanted to we only do rye. And so the gin is, redistilled tails. And the flavor is going to be, I like to describe it as, it's got a bright pop of juniper, kind of but it steps back pretty quickly, kind of like my husband at a party. He likes to go to bed early, so he goes early and he goes home early. And then once the juniper kind of steps back, then you get some of the cinnamon and like this botanically sweet kind of the anise and some of that stuff. So I love it. It's a fun gin, and a lot of people were really enjoying it. We do some barrel finish, old barrel finish in a pear brandy barrel. So we do that. Ooh. Yeah, it was kind of cool. Since I make brandy, I finish things in brandy. And then you see the pear brandy there.
Pear brandy here. Peach brandy.
Yep, and apple
brandy.
Uh-huh.
So many brandies.
Yeah, and there's one of our barrel select. So these are the ones that are going to be, special for different people.
I think the craft distilling industry is doing wonders for the gin world right now.
Yeah, gin got hot. It was like for a while there, it's like quick. All over Europe, it started to kind of grow, and now I think it's really kind of jumped.
Yeah, so many cool gins right now. There's so many cool craft gins right now, and again, so again, like that kind of touches on what you had mentioned before. Is like since you had so many distilleries pop up, so many choices, and it's hard for a distributor to be like, oh, hey, I'm going to pick you up or pick so and so up, even though the product might be great. So there, a lot of times the distributors aren't looking at, does your product taste great? Mm-hmm. Is it marketable? Can you work with the parameters that I need? Right.
Yeah, exactly. Which, like I said, that's it. There's absolutely nothing there that's a bad thing. It's just, you've got to have an on-ramp to get big enough to make it work right. And that's what we want for the little guys. I see that Michael's asking about tastings at the tasting now. Yes, we are doing tastings right now. Obviously, it's a smaller amount of people, so we tend to, if it gets full, you might have to come back later, or you can make reservations. So, most people are being really understanding. We love our people that come out to see us, and we appreciate them much. And they have been very understanding that we have to operate a certain way in order to keep everybody safe and to keep us open. So,
yeah. So, I hope you don't have anybody making a scene, like trying to force their way into your distillery.
I'm going to knock on wood and say that we have only the nicest customers that come by our place.
Yeah, right. It's like, don't tell me what to do. And Raymond says, I've seen some micro distribution models that have found some success with finding in-state retailers who are willing to have labeled, locally produced displays. Please ask Becky if she feels that this is a trend like made in the USA. That is something that the craft distillery industry should jump on board with. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
we do see obviously those locally made, even in Pennsylvania, because we're liquor controlled. There's a made in PA section.
Right. We have something similar made in Virginia all the time.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of places do put, some thought, especially retailers put thought into how they display things. And, especially if they like the product, they're going to kind of put together a way to make it go. Our retail partners usually get pretty creative about it.
Yeah, yeah. Tom says, How did you decide on the mash bill you use in your whiskeys and to get the profile that you want?
We really wanted to focus on rye and just rye. So it's 100% rye. So it's real easy.
Okay.
Yep. It's basically a sweet mash. So no
Okay.
back set. We're just fresh every time.
Do you
Unmalted.
use malted? Oh, unmalted. Okay.
Unmalted. I like the flavor. It's
Okay.
got this really nice fruitiness that we get in there. And yeah, so that's what we use. When I get new farmers that I start working with, one of the things I need to do is look at how I bring their product in, and I generally start them off at a low percentage because I know that my different farmers that I'm at all have different flavor. So I'll bring someone in at maybe 10% and then gradually increase it over a couple years to kind of get it to where I really want it to be, to hit the flavor that is consistent with my vision for the brand and also kind of not changing too radically. So yeah, this is at our farmer
This is a
Timmy.
big picture. It's taking a while to load, I guess.
Yeah, this one must be high resolution. Yeah, this is at Timmy's farm. So Timmy's down near Rappahannock River, and that's one of his fields. Gorgeous place.
Yeah, and this is the rye you guys use?
Yep, this one of them. He's got a couple different strains. So this one is, I believe, the Ryman. So you can see it's pretty tall.
Yeah, so this is what we're talking about, kind of like, the marketing component where we see you in the rye fields and
exactly. So we made this trip just to get a picture. So I would have some rye.
You should take some pictures of you like doing payroll like on a Monday.
Nobody likes those pictures.
Yeah, and it's like sitting in your office and be like,
look at here's the coffee cup. There's the No, you have pictures of people holding bottles, not coffee cups.
Yeah.
Nobody's taking pictures of me sweeping up, at the end of the day, or carrying pallets out to the back. Nobody has those pictures. Not dramatic.
Frank asks, "Where in Virginia are you?"
We're in Percival, which is just near Leesburg, so it's in the very top, up in Northern Virginia, an hour west of DC.
Yeah. And Frank also asks, do you guys toast your staves or like, I guess, char, toast? Like, what's the specifications do you guys have?
It's pretty much, we use a medium char barrel. So I like it like right down the middle, 30-gallon medium char.
Okay. No toasting, or do you guys do the actual, do you guys
we buy them already.
Toasting?
Yeah, we buy them all ready to go.
Gotcha.
Sorry, I got my puppy came in.
Okay. American Mashing Grain asks, do you find rye is difficult to distill? Lots of distillers complain about it getting gummy and lacking the yield of other grains.
Yes,
I guess for unmalted rye, for sure.
Yeah. Yes and yes. So yes, it's difficult to distill. Yes, it's gummy. So we distill on the grain, so we don't try to separate it.
Okay.
And doesn't have the yield of other grains? No, it doesn't. That's why rye is the flavor grain in bourbon, right? It's because it brings in a lot of the flavors. So, you know what? That's just the price we pay for being 100% rye. I feel like that is really part of what we're doing. We want to. If you're a small brand, sometimes you have to make a decision that you're going to do stuff that maybe doesn't always make economic sense, but you want to do it for the reasons of flavor. So that's why we're 100% rye. That's why we do everything in pot stills instead of beer stills. If I'm working in a pot still, I can make selections as to which parts of the distillation go into my barrel.
Control, yeah.
Full control. And also that cook time that translates to flavor.
Yeah.
And so for us, that's it's all very deliberately done that way.
Yeah, yeah. And Becky mentioned a couple of technical things like distilling on the grain or off the grain. On the grain is just meaning that all the grains are in that are going into the distill, and they're not separating the wash and the beer with from the grain. So that also makes it kind of messy too, because
Yeah.
you have a
Yep.
lot of scorching and burning and whatnot.
Yeah, you gotta.
Uh,
That just means you gotta control your. You can't heat
yeah,
too fast,
yeah.
and you've got to control everything and keep it really clean.
Steam, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Steam jackets
Yep.
on yours.
Steam
Yeah,
jacket.
and lacking the yield. Yeah, and then so again, another technical thing. Corn obviously has a higher sugar content. Will be able to yield more sugar for the yeast, which thus yields more alcohol. Rye is going to be lesser kind of yield in terms of sugar and alcohol, but then if obviously making 100% rye, unmalted rye whiskey is also unique in itself, so
Yeah.
not looking for the easiest way, you're looking for the way that you want.
Right. Right. We sometimes just decide that you're going to do something a certain way so that you can, be different.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to taste your whiskey just yet.
And we're going to have to figure out a way.
Yeah, yeah, and so we were connected by Paul Haletko from Few,
Yep.
and I'm just kind of hearing. Well, so I feel like I've heard about your brand just from around, but I've never actually been exposed to your brand in Pennsylvania, just because
Pennsylvania is a little tricky,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Maybe we'll have to set up a tasting one of these days, and for my club, the Philadelphia Whisky Society.
Yeah.
When we're able to not look at picture when we're able to look at a picture of people and not be grossed out by it,
You're right.
Yeah, yeah. So several awards, San Francisco Spirits Awards competition gold here. I can see.
It looks like they have a question. My rye lean toward a spicy note, herbal note, or something different. I would say that when I talk about my rye, what I'm looking at is that there's some fruity notes in the mid palate, kind of like some plum or some citrus. It has a nice spicy finish kind of on the back end, but it's not like there's not really the dill and kind of some of those other notes, the grassy notes that come in. So maybe that answers your question, American Mash and Grain.
Yeah, and also a lot of things that a lot of times people don't realize. Also, it has a lot to do with the yeast that you guys use too. Yeast can
You
yield
choose a
an
yeast, and
incredibly
that's really what it does. Yep.
different outcome. Use one yeast tastes one way, you use another yeast tastes completely different. And obviously the cuts that you make and whatnot. You want to talk about a little bit about your yeast, or how you guys, what kind of yeast you guys?
We've just been using the same one since we started. I've just been really kind of enamored with that kind of the fruitiness of it. For me, I think a lot of it is those things come from the grain, because I'll use the same yeast with the different ryes, and you get the different notes, and some of them you don't really get that fruitiness. So I think it's coming from the ryes that we're choosing.
Gotcha. And Pennsylvania obviously was the kind of the Northeast, and Pennsylvania was a big rye producing country, or big not country, big rye producing region.
Absolutely.
And we had a Monongahela.
Yep, you got it.
Somebody pronounced it a different way, but we had this amazing rye that it's kind of disappeared.
Yep.
Have you guys looked into that kind of thing, or or have you guys, because you had several craft distillers also leading this charge in innovation of using these kind of heritage ryes now that nobody's ever used before. In Pennsylvania, there's a distillery called Stone Wolf they revived this old rye that was used before, and they distilled rosin rye. I think that was called, yeah, rosin rye. What are your thoughts about this area of innovation and heritage grains
Oh, it's
and
so cool. I mean, I love it. I think it's great. What we tend to look at is for us, what we're not looking at doing as much a single varietal of rye. We're more interested in um,
oh,
what
I
we
look
like
at
to do with our farmers is that if the rye is working for them and giving them good results on their particular land, then that's really the rye that they need to be growing.
that. Yeah.
And so we see, what that flavor brings to it. So it's really, for us, it's really the partnership of, because you can have heritage grains, and as my good friend Michael from Far North Spirit said, heritage for a reason.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
may be a nightmare in the field,
yeah,
and it's not something that works well. So for us, it's
yeah,
really about, let's give it a try. We've tried a number of different grains, especially with Timmy, who's one of our he's an awesome guy and a great partner. And he will try a small batch and we'll taste it, and he'll grow it, and then we talk about it. How'd it go for you? How'd it go for you? And then kind
Oh,
of
that's cool.
figure out from there whether we want to do more next year or less. And then we kind of keep track over time of how is it doing? Does it taste good? How's it growing as part of the product? And
Yeah.
so it's a real collaboration, I think, and that's what makes it kind of fun too.
Yeah, and I really think I know that the craft whiskey or the craft distilling industry is really going to do wonders for just innovation in general, and just through these collaborations and just experimentation. You have so much more mobility to do experimentations compared to your bigger brands and whatnot. You could just do like a small batch and try it and see if you like it, if it's good,
Yeah,
without having
exactly.
to, have to go up the ladder and get all this approval.
Yes.
Alicia says, do you have to use more enzymes because you don't use any malted grains?
Yes, you
Yeah,
do.
obviously you do. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep. And American Mashing Grain says nailed it. I guess.
Awesome. I like my question and my answer, I guess.
I guess your answer is that I guess was that on based on what she had said about the
Yeah,
heritage for a
herbal
reason.
note, and I think that was I was answering his tasting note question.
Okay, gotcha. So I'm also seeing this grape that, so you also have some Virginia things. So it's very Virginia oriented, obviously a brand, and you have all these beautiful scenic pictures of Virginia. And now that I remember, now that I recall, and I saw your husband in a kilt. There's a big Scottish population also in Virginia,
Yeah,
right?
there's still some. Yeah, you still see some of that kind of stuff. He's always found it to be fun. He had bought himself a kilt when we were in
Yeah,
Scotland, and I said, if you buy it, you have to wear it. And
yeah.
so he is happy to do so.
There's a really famous show. I think it's what's it called? People are really crazy about the show. It was a book, and then it was talks
Oh,
about the
Outlander.
Outlander. That's right.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Oh, he's saying it was your pronunciation of Monongahela.
Yeah,
There you
Monongahela,
go. You had it. Yeah,
Monongahela.
that's what he was saying. You nailed it. There
Yeah,
you go.
yeah, I gotcha. Yep. And does anyone have any other questions or anything like that? Um, Becky, is there anything else you want to kind of touch upon or discuss or chat about?
No, it's there's you guys have it's covered so much ground. I mean, you've got a great group of people are asking questions. It's been amazing. But yeah,
Yeah,
we've it's been fun. The one thing I really miss is the time of travel. That was when it was this year. I was supposed to be doing a lot of travel, doing more whiskey events in different states
yeah,
and that kind of stuff. I'm sorry it isn't. It's kind of it's at least we have these kind of things we can do now. But yeah, I always enjoy going out and chatting with people and kind of talking whiskey. it's been interesting because I think people what I find interesting now versus 10 years ago, I would say is that there is more of an understanding that rye can be as diverse and interesting to drink as a whiskey lover
Hmm.
as is bourbon, as is single malt. You know, when I first started and we brought my 100% rye out there, people were like, this doesn't taste like rye. And it
Yeah, yeah,
was because it wasn't from MGP.
yeah, yeah,
Everybody
yeah,
thought
yeah.
that that was pretty much it, right?
Yeah,
It's
10
like
years ago? Oh
either
my gosh, yeah.
yeah, it was like, well, this doesn't taste like rye, and it's like it's 100% rye. But now you can go out and you're seeing many more ryes that are coming from places that are actually making it from grain to glass. And so you're
Yeah,
starting to taste things that taste different, you know? It's
yeah.
like some of them you like more, some of them you like less. And you know what? That's okay because that's how it is with bourbon. That's how it is with single
Yeah,
malt. And that's my experience with all these whiskeys is that some of them I like more, some of them I don't. But that's what's fun about whiskey, isn't it? You know,
yeah.
it's
It's
trying a
completely
new one
objective.
and
It's completely
saying, what do I
objective,
think?
you know. Yeah, it's completely objective, you know. And also we'll talk about my thoughts on on rye, you know, and having some of these craft rye, you know, I think the big difference in like a craft rye versus a a big brand rye is really that craft and being able to taste that grain, right?
Hmm.
And it's especially with somebody like yourself, you're distilling on the grain,
Hmm.
you're gonna get a lot more of those grain forward notes, right?
Right. Hmm.
So it's almost like you're getting this mouthful of rye,
Exactly.
rye grains in
Yes.
every sip, you know.
Yeah.
And for anybody that's kind of new to that experience, it's much more I want to say more organic. It's much more vegetal. It's not like your boiled rye, which is a very easy drinking rye. This is gonna have so much more character. You know, you're gonna
It
get a
can
lot
be so
more
different. You
that.
know, you can try like Leopold's Maryland style rye. To
Yeah,
me, it's got almost this like a oceany flavor to it. To me,
yeah,
that's what I get out of it. And it's like, what? And then tried like Corbin Cash out of California, really fascinating. You know, Old Potrero, they make a gorgeous rye.
yeah,
You know, Willet's always a good rye, Frank. Yep.
yeah,
They always have. I had one once that tasted like lavender. It was fantastic. You know,
yeah.
there's so many cool things out there, and that's
Oh
what
yeah,
you know,
Sagamore.
I'm just an ambassador and a evangelist for rye. I just want
Yeah,
people to love it as much as I do.
yeah, and Dad's Hat, obviously,
Oh
in
yeah, they got
Pennsylvania.
theirs is so different than ours. I mean, it's like, you know, we're
Yeah,
not
they
that
use
far
malted
apart,
and
but
unmalted. Yeah,
yeah, it's that things are different. You know, it tastes so different, and that's what's cool about it.
and I just want to. So this is online store for those of you who are in Virginia, or at least you can check out some of the price points
Yeah, so this is
options
Virginia
here.
prices. They're a little higher than some places.
Okay,
Virginia
oh
control
Virginia.
state.
Okay,
So I'll tell you, most of you guys in non-control states will see that they're a little. These are what we pay in Virginia.
okay, gotcha. Yes, I think like in New Jersey is probably closer to like 39.99 or something
Yeah,
like that,
they're
or
the 80 proof
something.
is generally under 40.
Yeah.
So it brings it down a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So the Distiller's Edition, the
Mm-hmm.
Gas Proof, eighty nine
Mm-hmm.
ninety nine. The Roundstone Rye, Cast Proof Hickory Finish.
Yep.
Interesting. The Watershed Gin. What are the botanicals? Can you share what the botanicals are that you use in your gin?
Yeah, we have like 7 or 8. It's the
Yeah.
primary ones that are there that most people get is like there's the like I said, the
Obviously
breakup of
juniper.
juniper, and then it kind of resolves into like the cinnamon, the anise. There's some
Okay. And
the
cinnamon.
orange peel. You know, it just kind of resolves, and you start to taste all those other things, and it's got that sort of a botanical sweetness to it that makes it almost sippable.
This is kind of cool. You have a gift pack here,
Mhm.
$39.99 gift pack with three 200 milliliter bottles. You can get a little sampling of everything.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and then obviously in New Jersey, I'm sure you can find this in most places. Colorado,
Yep.
I'm pretty sure
Yep.
Total Wine. I imagine Total Wine probably has it.
Yeah, I think Total
Total
Wine
Wine's
has
a
this pretty
big
much
place.
across the country. So if you have a Total Wine near you, almost every Total Wine carries us.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So that's a
What's
good
your
place.
what's your favorite cocktail then? Do you have a favorite cocktail you drink?
So I'm like partial to a cocktail that reminds me that I love a sour. Okay. I
Okay,
love a whiskey
yeah,
sour, but whiskey sours go down really easy. So
yeah,
I tend
right,
to for my as I'm in the business and I have to go out and sometimes have a few drinks, I want to
yeah,
have a drink that it reminds me that I'm drinking whiskey and it
okay,
reminds me to sip. So if I'm not sipping neat, then I love Manhattan's, Vieux
uh,
Carré, Boulevardier, any of
yeah.
those.
There you go.
Yeah, something with a little booziness to it, and I'll admit sometimes even a little bitterness.
Okay, gotcha. And
Bitter
then, so
and boozy.
is there a particular product in your product line here that you recommend making a cocktail or a certain cocktail with that goes well or something?
Last time I was in Oakland, I was at
Yeah.
a bar, and one of the bartenders made me a Manhattan with my cask proof and a cap course, which is,
Okay.
and it was fantastic.
Oh
So
wow.
if
Okay.
you've
The
got a
tap
bottle of
proof.
Cap Corse at home, which is like a French vermouth kind of
Yeah.
Cap Corse is it really vermouth? I don't think. I'm trying to remember the exact. It's like a um, what is it? It's
It's like
like
a
burr.
liqueur.
It's like a um, little bitterness to it. But anyway, it was really good.
Okay. All right. Craft ryes don't taste like bourbon like a lot of commercial rye whiskeys do. I agree. I agree. American Mash and
Right.
Grain.
Yeah. We're tending to try to do something a little different with them, I think. I think
Yeah.
that sometimes the rye, because of the 51% rye rule, a lot of the commercial ones, they might just be a
Yeah.
hair above the 51. And most of us craft people want to take it more
Yeah.
up because
One
we
more
want we
character. One
want you
more.
to get that. Yeah.
Flavors. Yeah.
Hmm.
All right. Well, it's 10:30, and we're gonna wrap up here. But I think one of the things that I just kind of recap on everything we talked about is first of all, support local.
Yes, do.
Craft distillers are struggling just like any other business, right? A lot of times we see restaurants and food and beverage and different industries being affected, but craft whiskey, we have to look at them, a lot of these small craft distillers, just like we look at bars and restaurants and hospitality spaces and whatnot, and they're dealing with the same issues as well,
Yep.
and
I
as
tell people, go to your locals,
yeah,
try them, find something you like there, and recommend it to friends. Buy it for
yeah,
presents at Christmas. Give the local people love, and
yeah.
love is right now money.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
need it. They need to keep their people
struggling, yeah,
paid, and I like to tell people that if you like your big whiskey brands, that's great. But you know, ev- take 1 in 10 bottles and buy from small brands.
yeah,
And you know what? That'd do a heck of a lot for a lot of these small producers.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and
Spending $100 at a craft distillery or a craft
that
place,
money stays in the
yeah,
area because these
yeah,
people
yeah,
are all paying their people, and those people are buying ballet lessons for their kids and soccer and whatever. So all that
yeah,
money is staying
yeah,
close to home.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
soccer
like
lessons and yeah,
just
soccer,
like
yeah,
shopping, at your local hardware store as opposed to maybe a big Home Depot. You know,
yeah, yeah,
keep that money. Keep love your community right now. We all
yeah,
hang together, right?
yeah, 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 and yeah, support, yeah. So Frank just says, did you know PA Wine and Spirits, your roundhouse is considered a top pick? Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
Yeah.
hey, Pennsylvania, go out there, buy a
Yeah,
bottle.
yeah. So for since most of us are in Pennsylvania here, I think several viewers are Pennsylvania. You can go to PA Wine and Spirits, and you can do the special order, and they'll ship it actually directly to your house.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and or if you're in Jersey or New York, Astor Wine and Spirits, Total Wines have it.
Yep, we're in Delaware too. If people
Yeah,
like
check out
from
Make a
Delaware.
Manhattan, buy a cast strength. Check it out. Support local. You're supposed to support these craft distilleries. If we want these craft distilleries to stay around, we gotta put our money where our mouth is, kind of thing.
Yeah, and if you're ever in the area, reach out.
If you're in, yep. Well, you're not open right now for tours, are you? Or are you?
Yeah, we just started doing tours now. They allowed
Okay.
us at this point. We can do tours. So, of course, you all have to wear masks, and we all keep properly social distance. But yes, we are doing tours now.
Okay, great. So it seems like Michael, my friend Michael from Philadelphia, Michael Kuttner, he actually travels down to Kentucky quite a bit, and maybe one of these days you'll swing by.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, and then if you go see Becky, I mentioned you saw her on this broadcast.
Because gosh knows I'm there now.
Yeah, and then maybe she'll pull out something cool from the back for you to sip.
There you go.
And also again, just kind of recap, in my opinion, craft distilleries are really on the forefront of innovation and just challenging the whiskey industry just to be better and not to be just this mundane thing. And things like 100% rye, before craft distillers, nobody was doing it, and I love some of these, 100% ryes, 100% rye whiskeys and whatnot. And we just got to keep them around, support locals, support your local craft distillers,
keep loving whiskey. We all love it. We love the big guys. We love the small guys, but I think there's room for lots of little guys in this business.
Yeah. And also, if I guess, if anybody's politically involved, support the ability to kind of ship also, right?
Yeah, if you have a state where you can't get stuff shipped to your house, send a letter to your local state representatives and say, how come I can't order my stuff online?
Yeah. Right. And also just even help, if you see legislation changing, because right now you have in Virginia or a certain place, you have this emergency changes where they're allowing you to
tell them you like it,
tell them you support.
Yes, tell them you're happy about that because they listen. When you send them a note and you say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to complain about something. I'm going to say, good job. They're like, oh my gosh, somebody's telling me some good work.
Yeah, we support the ability in Virginia or wherever to, for craft distillers to be able to ship. And we hope this continues.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So just kind of some small grassroots advocacy and
absolutely, help out your local distillers.
yeah, and I would love to be able to move this nationally if just like wine, right?
Just like you heard about some little place in Nevada. Oh, I've heard they've had good whiskey. I'd love to try it, and you could try it, and it'd be easy. That would be amazing. I would be all over that, man.
Yeah, and also the American Craft Beer Association also accepts non-distillery or non-distiller members as well, right?
Yes, we do. We have associate members. So, we do have every year we have a conference. It's super nerdy. It's full of distillers. And one of the things we like to talk about is how we can make our businesses better. So a lot of it is technical stuff. Some of it's safety stuff, but it's really interesting. And you know what? If you're interested in getting to be involved, check it out. American Craft Spirits.
Yeah, American Craft Beer Association. Go check out their website. Obviously, check out Becky's Catoctin Creek Distillers website. And also, obviously, I plug myself. Check my Facebook page, The Whiskey Steward, out. Please, if you like this program, if you like this program and what we discuss, go check out the other videos. I mean, we interviewed Dad's Hat, Few, a couple other craft distilleries, Liberty Pole. So I'm a big supporter of the craft distillery scene. And please support my show and broadcast, and go like my page and check out all these different resources. The report that I pulled up is so incredibly insightful, and they publish this report every year, and you can really see a lot of great information if you're nerdy like me, and on the American Craft Spirit Association. On the American craft spirits industry and whatnot. So these are all just great resources. If you're still at home or working from home and looking for distraction, go check out all these resources, and reach out to your local legislator and tell them that you support local distillers and you support the ability for them to ship and whatnot. And do a little, everybody do a little bit of what you can, and maybe we can make a difference, right?
That's right. We all pull together. Well,
Yeah,
it was awesome, super fun talking to you, Alex.
Yeah, amazing. American Mash and Grain, Nerdy Whiskey Function, sign me up. All right,
yeah,
go and join the American Craft Beer Association. They do have associate members, and get plugged in. Again, Becky, what a pleasure this was. Thanks for sharing everything,
Absolutely.
and and thanks for your time as well. And we love and support you and the craft distilling scene. And it's tough right now, but hopefully we can get through it together. Get through this together, and
and we can meet in my distillery for real.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go there with Michael, maybe.
There you go.
Michael and I can go, and I would love to actually go visit some. Actually, there's some other distilleries I wanted to visit in Virginia. Because I really wanted to go to visit the George Washington Distillery too.
Yeah, that's super fun.
I was actually planning on it. I was actually planning on going, but then obviously, changed.
You have to make a tour through. There you go.
Yeah, because there's some really great stuff in Virginia in
Very
terms
great
of distilleries and whatnot. All right. Well, again, thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks everybody for the questions. You guys made the show great just by asking your questions.
Fun, guys.
Yeah, and and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you, Becky. Thanks everybody. Have a great night.
Good night.
And
thank you.
We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.